Welcome to our house. This is Christmas 2020, Sunday, December 20th. We actually are not going to be meeting at the church. We'll just be doing this broadcast video from our house. And so I wanted to show you what it looks like here. This is Christmas at the Foster residence. My wife does such a wonderful job of making it look beautiful. Here we have, introduce you to my dad's parents, Alice and Jasper Foster, on the wall there. And, this is some more of the finery. One of our major scenes up there. This trunk actually was owned by a lady that was a Catholic sister here in Yakima many years ago. We got it from friends. And here's our Christmas tree. Here's our Christmas dog. Ember has a problem with a leg that she keeps chewing on, so that's why she has a cone on her head, but she's all decked out. And your holiday finery there, we'll be talking more about that. Our tree is filled with ornaments that are, almost every one is some memory of some event or place that we've been to, dating back to when Yvonne and I took our honeymoon on the Oregon coast in 1983. And we've gone with a artificial tree finally, to the chagrin of our kids, but it's more logical and efficient. These are we keep some of our Christmas cards. This buffet here was actually a gift to us, which I wrote a Christmas letter about a few years ago. Some of you may remember that. And these other decorations and finery. Our table where we share special meals at this time of year. This is where we gather on Christmas morning to open our stockings. And this, of course, is what it's all about right here. Christmas, Jesus is the reason for the season. We got this on our honeymoon in Oregon and added to it through the years. Baby Jesus here. We like this manger scene because our kids could play with it when we were growing up. Baby Jesus is missing a big toe. Unfortunately, Jacqueline chewed it off when she was little, not recently. But we are so glad to have a nice place, and wish we could have you all here to enjoy it together. But this season we can't do that, but at least we can say welcome to our house and a Merry Christmas to you. Well, it's Christmas 2020. It's been 3 years since I wrote a Christmas letter. Last one was in 2017, Buffy the Boy Cat. And this year I'm going to talk about Shade, the Wonder Dog. We have had quite a year here. December of 2020 we look back on. There have been masks, lockdowns, quarantines, natural disasters and political upheaval. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. It's been a year of heartache. And then our dog took a drastic turn for the worse. So that's kind of where I'm coming at from today. I might mention this message. I'm not going to be preaching a lot of verses in it. It's more a story. I'm going to read today the Christmas letter that I've written, which I'll be passing out. I always pray that God will use it to touch the hearts of people maybe that don't often go to church, but maybe it could touch yours too. You know, my pain over my dog's demise is not worthy to compare with people who've lost their livelihoods, their houses, their homes, their jobs, loved ones. But I think there are some lessons maybe about loss here that could be helpful to anybody going through this nightmare of a year in so many ways. And maybe an old dog could teach you some new tricks. So I'm just going to read it. For the kid's birthday in 2007, we agreed the family would start looking for a dog. The older girls brought home a hungry little black puppy that they discovered at a rural autumn bonfire. The pathetic creature had been abandoned in a nearby orchard. For the past 13 years, let me assure you, she has never lacked for food or affection. At first, Shade was so listless, we feared there might be some medical problem, but she soon turned that notion upside down. tearing around the yard, digging up the yard, escaping from the yard, endlessly challenging us to tug-of-wars, stealing food off the counters, chewing up our valuables, swallowing foreign objects. Our emergency trips to the vet were certainly not prompted by any concerns over general lethargy. Shade was highly energetic, but after her rambunctious episode, she would inevitably collapse in an exhausted heap. But she reigned supreme in our hearts as the queen of cuddling and of consternation. Oh, how she loved to go on the walks on the canal each day. I learned to not store anything else in the leash drawer, lest she hear it open and come jolting out of slumber 2 rooms away, bounding and groaning with excitement. In those days, she could likewise hear the tiniest of crumbs as it hit the kitchen floor. Curiously, she was so keen in that regard, and yet totally oblivious to dozens of ducks sitting on the canal road waiting for a kind lady who fed them each day. As we approached, most ducks would flutter away, but eventually some learned that they could safely stay as Shade passed by, nose to the ground. I wonder if it might harken back to the original starvation days when she was fixated upon sniffing around the orchard ground for grubs to eat. Sight and hearing have sadly diminished, but we have observed no fading of her sense of smell. Shade can no longer hear the leash drawer open, nor can she hear a package of lunch meat being opened in the kitchen, but the fragrance still awakens and summons her from the farthest reaches of the house. Hasn't lost her appetite. She used to love to run free, so I would often remove the leash as she investigated each rock and bush along the canal road. Occasionally this resulted in calamity. I will never forget her unfortunate face-first encounter with a skunk. Another day, Shade disappeared through the underbrush, reappeared 100 yards upstream with a beefsteak in her mouth. I explained to her that stealing is a sin, asked her to imagine the bitter disappointment that might now be engulfing some hungry family. But I detected no hint of repentance as she wolfed it down. After that, we maintained a leash restriction in the vicinity of her crime. On another occasion, she went out of sight for a while before responding to my calls. After arriving home, she developed trouble breathing, could hardly stand or walk. Another visit to our friend, the after-hours veterinarian, offered a shocking possible diagnosis: marijuana overdose. Apparently, she had sniffed out someone's weed stash and ingested the contents. Looking back, I realized we had neglected to warn her about the dangers of drugs, so it wasn't totally her fault. But to other pet owners, I say, learn from our mistake. Our cat Grace struggled, but eventually accepted Shade. 2 other stray kittens wandered into our yard and into our lives in the years afterwards, including Chai, who seemingly mistook Shade as her long-lost mother. Then 2 years ago, in the record snowfall month of February, our son David pulled into his carport, discovered a shivering, starving dog huddled there like a dying ember. We took her in, and that forlorn creature revived much as Shade had a decade earlier. To our amazement, Shade accepted her into the household. Perhaps she sensed a common bond with this fellow victim of abandonment. Ember, as we named her, adores Shade and respectfully defers to her at mealtime. Recently, she must have sensed that Shade was not doing well, so she jumped up and laid next to her. That is not uncommon, but we were touched by what happened next. She took the precious bone that she had been chewing on and dropped it by Shade's face, apparently hoping to cheer her up. Indications are that Shade may not be with us much longer. She had been slowly declining, but this month her downhill slide dramatically escalated. One sad evening recently, we realized that she finally would probably not be able to handle even a short walk. It hurt my heart to look upon the 2 dog sweaters newly laid out for her and Ember. I tried to push the thought of burial clothing and a burial site out of my mind. Thankfully, we were able to adorn them in their matching Christmas outfits the following day and took them on a short walk. But the next day, Shade barely stepped onto the sidewalk before looking up at me as if to say, my joints hurt, I'm too weak, please take me home. And so I did, hoping it would not be the final time. That night my wife was out of town, so I had the house to myself with shade. Lights from the trees softly twinkled upon her soft black fur as she lay there laboring to breathe. It seemed the perfect setting for a country song. Merle Haggard's classic, If We Make It Through December, went through my mind. Yvonne had told me, I just wish shade could last through Christmas. But prospects seemed bleak as I pondered farewell to my faithful friend. Some ways it's harder to say goodbye to a pet than to a person. A person can grasp the words when we retell precious times and remember them together. Humans can verbalize affection and appreciation. We can discuss eternity. Shade can't comprehend or communicate that way. Come here, Shade. She's still with us. But she doesn't understand when I talk about the good old times and tell her that she may or may not continue to exist after she passes on. But she has a heart that understands love. From her heart, she has her own ways of expressing love. I think maybe that's a small picture of how we can relate to God. We're incapable of intellectually processing all that He might try to tell us. We can know that He loves us, and we can express our love to Him in simple ways. We each handle heartache differently. Some people try to drown their sorrows. Some seek to crowd grief out by packing their calendars. But we miss something if we avoid it. The Bible says, blessed are they that mourn. My method of mourning is to face it head on. Jerry Sitzer, who was a professor at Whitworth College, lost his wife, his daughter, his mother in a terrible car accident, but he explains how his healing from personal tragedy came when he says, the quickest way for anyone to reach the sun and the light of day is not to run west, chasing after the setting sun, but to head east, plunging into the darkness until one comes to the sunrise. Facing our pain is difficult but necessary. How you doing, Shade? We're just glad you're still thrashing around there. Facing our pain is difficult but necessary. To say I don't want to grieve is to say I don't want to grow. I don't want to grow in my appreciation for the precious things that I still do have. I don't want to grow in my empathy for others who also struggle. I don't want to grow in remembering that everything I see is stamped with a small letter T for temporary. And I don't want to grow in my need for God. Sorrow stretches the soul. To say I don't want to sorrow is to say I want to stay shallow. To say I don't want to cry is to say I don't want to care. And so that evening, I grabbed a guitar, poured out my heart for a couple of hours. Shade, you can lay down in your bed there, which would be more appropriate for the message that we're trying to convey here, that you were so near death on that night. Here, lay down, lay down. Yeah, let's lay down. Obviously, she has revived a little bit since then, but as we came here, go ahead, lay down, lay down. Now she wants to go for a WALK. That's her saying she does that in a number. So not now. We already did that just a little while ago. I was trying to say that sorrow stretches the soul. And so that night, I grabbed this guitar, pulled it out of the back room, and sat down here as Shade was laying over there. And I poured out my heart for a couple of hours. Fortunately, Shade hardly noticed, deaf as she is, but I expressed the rawness of my pain. But I also expressed my thankfulness for the years that we shared together. I worked my way to a place of peace and healing. God's near the brokenhearted. Music is a powerful avenue of emotional expression. As I played that night, I remembered George Harrison's song, While My Guitar Gently Weeps. After his death, the song was played as a tribute by friends upon the occasion of his induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Prince executed an emotional extended guitar solo, which has received over 94 million YouTube views since then. After pouring everything he had into the performance, Prince concluded with a startling action. He unstrapped his guitar and launched it high into the air. Got rid of it, not disdainfully, but almost as if to say, "Wow, wasn't that something? Mission accomplished. Farewell, faithful friend." His guitar disappeared out of camera range, and we're left to wonder, where did it go? Was someone there to catch it? Will we see it again? Well, we humans are created in the image of God. The Bible promises eternal life for those who believe and receive Jesus. But I don't believe an animal possesses that capability. When Shade passes out of camera range, which thankfully she has, but when she passes out for the last time from camera range, I'm not sure if I'll see her again. As I view it, the Bible doesn't promise it, but it doesn't preclude the possibility. If we meet again, it will be for my benefit, not because Shade found forgiveness for that barbecue burglary. Either way, I'll need to say farewell someday, to let her go and to move forward with both grief and gratefulness. Life will be different, but life will go on. Loss doesn't make me less. I'm richer for the experience and the memories. Well, the good news, as you've seen, Shade revived, much like she did after her initial encounter in 2007, has experienced a remarkable resurgence. It looks like she will indeed be with us through Christmas this year. We'll just take one day at a time, appreciating all that we have and believing God's grace will be there for the future. That heart-wrenching evening, as I pondered life without Shade, I decided if we make it through December, well, at least we'll still have Ember, and we'll still smile as we remember. If we make it through December, we'll be fine. May God's love, joy, and peace sustain you for now and forever. Merry Christmas 2020 from our family to yours.